What's up, Bulldogs? All right, I have someone who I've been wanting to get on this channel for a while now. Patrick Cutter, you might know him from Instagram as I Run 26.2. He's someone that I'm not sure exactly how I came across your Instagram, Patrick, but I saw it maybe on a marathon hashtag or something like that, and I was impressed. I was like, wow, because I don't know many people that are weightlifters that are also running marathons. And then I was even more impressed when I saw Patrick's time of running. I think your best marathon is 2 hours and 34 minutes.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so that's like just super impressive. I mean, that's super impressive for someone who weighs 130 pounds. I think, at least. I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty high level. But to be able to pull that off at a almost 200 pound, like 100, probably 170, 180 pounds.
Uh, it's been fluctuating. It's usually every marathon I've done has been over 180 pounds. But
Wow.
my heaviest I've done for like when I did Chicago last year, I ran 235. I was like 187, 188.
Oh, wow. That's just phenomenal. That's amazing. Yeah. So anyway, welcome, Patrick. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, John. Appreciate it.
So maybe maybe we can start out with just a little bit of your background, like where how did you get into running and to be someone who's lifting weights. I mean, I know that you did football before, but that it's definitely not the normal thing, right? For someone your size, to go into marathon running. How did you get into that?
I just like since I was a kid, I enjoyed working hard, and I grew up on a farm. And I was working on a farm with my family since I was 8 years old till the time I was like 18, maybe a little before that. And just I love working hard and pushing myself and lifting weights. So my love for lifting weights really started when I was younger, because I was just baling hay and straw in the summertime, and getting strong. And I was stronger than most people my age when I was 13, 14 years old, and a lot of that was work on the farm. And then I got into football, and it was kind of like a seamless transition to lifting weights. It was just different things. And my love for running, like I always enjoyed running, as a kid. And I take that back. I did not always. When I was like 8 years old, my dad made us do like a mile run a few times a week, getting ready for football season. And
Okay.
we had to run like down and back somewhere. And I hated it and I dreaded it. And a few of the times we skipped out on me and my brother because we didn't like to do it. But that was like when I was 8 years old. But as I got older, people on the football team, they hated doing wind sprints and stuff like that, and that was my favorite thing. I was on the basketball team. Wasn't that great of a player, but I made my niche. And I love doing wind sprints, and because I didn't really get tired from it, and I just love pushing myself. And now here I am, 22 marathons later, and running it's pretty much my life.
Wow. How long ago did you start doing, like, what was your first, I'm assuming you probably did like a half marathon before you did a marathon, or like, what was your first time running, over like what would be considered like a distance run?
So I did my first half marathon was in I think it was September 2012, and
Okay.
I ran, I want to say like 1:32:40 something. And I remember I had one of my friends that I used to work with. He's like, if you run that twice, back to back, essentially you could qualify for Boston. And Boston at that time, it was like 3:10 or 3:05. I forgot. The times have gotten faster since then. But
Yeah.
I was like, hey, why not try a marathon? And when I did the half, I really had no intention of really doing a marathon. I was just like, let's do a half, see what happens. And a few months later, I signed up for Hamilton Marathon in Canada, and um, I knew nothing about running. I didn't use a watch. I ran with my phone, music.
Really?
I didn't know. I didn't even know how far a marathon was, to be honest. I mean, and for international races, all the markers are in kilometers, and I didn't have a watch, so I had no idea how many kilometers were in a marathon. So I'm like, man, this thing almost over with. I'm like, this is like going on forever and ever. And um, I was so unprepared, you know,
Yeah.
for my first one. And I think a lot of people are that first one because you're just someone to expect. And uh, I made a lot of mistakes. You know, I was only running like 3 days a week for that, and I think I was like 3:11 was my first time marathon for my first time, and which a lot of people would take as like a lifetime PB, but you know, for me, I was just like really disappointed, and at one point I thought that might be the only marathon I do, but then I was like, you know, I want to do it again. You know, I know what to expect this time, and you know, it can't be that bad now that you know what to expect. And the next marathon I did was in Buffalo, and I ran 2:59, and that was I've broken 3 every marathon since, and
Wow.
all over Boston, yeah, every time. So um, yeah, it's once you get that, I think people think that at first marathon, you have such a bad experience, and it's completely normal to you know go through the pains of that. And um, for a lot of people, whether it's my level or you know someone better, like it's not going to be great that first time. And I always tell people, you know, give it a second shot, you know, because there's a good chance you're going to feel a lot better. And you're like, hey, I can do this, and you know, I can improve off of that. And that's happened to me. You know, I jumped in another marathon, and I kept chipping away at my time, and I've been progressing pretty well over the years.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's how I felt after my first one. I was like, okay, I did this, check it off the bucket list, never do
Yeah,
this shit again. I'm done.
yeah,
And then, you know, I guess I'm at like marathon 6 or 7 now. So, you know, I came back and yeah, it's once you get going, but but I've had good ones where I've had, you know, obviously my first one was tough, but I had, you know, I think the next one I did, I was so better trained for it that I think my
oh
heart rate
yeah,
never even got above like 155, or at the very end maybe got up there, but most of
yeah,
the time I was running at like a 150 heart rate, and it just felt so easy, and I PR'd on
yeah.
it. And so I think it depends on the preparation for sure.
And I think a big aspect of with the second marathon compared to the first one is just like the mental aspect.
Mm.
And I would say running it's 90% mental and 10% physical. And especially that second time, you really mentally you know what to expect, and you know how to combat you know all the negative thoughts that you know pour into your mind, because whether you're doing your first one or my 22nd one, those you have those same thoughts that cross your mind of you know slow down, quit, like why are you doing this for? Like, it's okay to slow down. And, you know, so I've heard it all in my head, man. And it
Yeah.
doesn't change, you know, as years go by.
Now it's pretty amazing though. I think most people that are listening probably wouldn't realize how amazing it is. Like, just to put in perspective of you running your first half marathon at, you said it was about 131 or one.
Yeah, it was like 132 something. So I don't
Oh,
know if
okay.
that's what, like 650s or something. I can't,
Yeah,
off the top of my head, I can't remember.
it's somewhere. Yeah, it's around 650 or 7 minute mile. So,
Yeah,
I mean, how much did you train for that?
not very much.
Really? Wow.
um,
And how much
yeah,
did you weigh at that time, do you think?
roughly about the same, maybe a little less. I've really been you know consistent in my weight over the years, but my training was just you know this was back in 2012. I mean, it was really before you know Instagram was big with you know everyone posting kind of their routines and you know having running coaches and things like that. And you know professionals really weren't sharing their training, and there wasn't like videos out there of people doing you know this or that. So I was just kind of going out. Every run I did, I was running at like 640 to 650 pace, and it was
Oh, wow. So you were just
biggest thing I
pushing
can
it.
tell.
Yeah.
Biggest thing I can tell people is if you're training for a marathon, you have to you know run more miles. I think the most miles I did was 35 to 40 miles for on average, and my highest week was maybe 50 miles.
Oh,
And
wow.
for some people
Okay.
that works great, but I was
Yeah.
doing that over the course of 4 runs max. But most weeks it was 3.
Wow. So you, I
Not
mean, so there's definitely a big genetic component here in your case, right? I mean, most people can't get away with that kind of level of training and be able to perform. I mean, on most people's first half marathons are pretty happy to get under 2 hours. So
yeah.
that's, I imagine that you've got some pretty good endurance genes, I guess, and you apparently have type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers. So
Yeah.
okay,
So
wow.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, I've been trying to break. I mean, I've been I'm actually trained for an ultra marathon right now. I'll be running a 50-mile race here in about 2 weeks.
You're
And
crazy, man.
yeah, it's just a little further, you
Respect
know.
though, respect though. My hats are off. It's a completely different ball game. The ultra. People are like, "Oh, what are you gonna do your first ultra?" I'm like, "You guys can take care of the ultras." I mean, it's a different type of race, and I respect the heck out of people that do those because it's. I know it's not the same type of mentality as if you're racing a marathon, but it's still an ultra is an ultra. You're still putting the miles on your legs, whatever, no matter what the pace is. That's what I tell people. And so, which one are you doing?
Well, so I was scheduled to run the trail rail run. It's a 50-mile race that crosses like from Idaho to Montana along this railroad trail, but or the railroad tracks. But they actually canceled it unless you live in Montana. I live in San Diego, so I'm running a virtual run. I'm going to be running by myself in 2 weeks, just self-supported, and
Oh
just
man,
yeah. So
this should count. This should count as double the
I
miles for
know,
that.
and it's my first one too, right? So because I've
Yeah.
I ran like 6 marathons, and then I wanted to do this, and then I'm planning on doing like 100-miler by the end of this year. That's my goal for this year, is to get up to 100
That's awesome.
miles.
You're not gonna have a crew at all helping you out with like nutrition and stuff, or
I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do laps around
okay.
my like around the area. Like there's this bay here, so it's like I can do like a 16.7-mile loop, and then so basically 3 loops. And so I'll literally lap right to my house, and then I'll have like stuff set up, and then I'll be carrying a lot of gear as well. So I think I could pretty much self-support for 50 miles. Like 100 you absolutely need a crew, or you need,
Oh
you
yeah,
need aid, but with 50 you could almost carry everything you need, to get through it.
dude, man, that's awesome. My hats are off to you, man. That's why I wish you all the best. Especially doing it solo. That's gonna be a fun time. Hopefully, it's not too warm for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna start early in the morning.
Yeah,
I've done 2 30-mile runs so far in the training, so I feel like I'm pretty ready. I'm just tapering now, but yeah, it's gonna be exciting. It'll be pretty cool to do. Not too many, again, like not too many guys our size doing. I'm about 225 pounds, so not too many guys running a 50-miler
no,
at that
no, I was
at
gonna
that
say
height.
I don't know anybody. I'm on like I have a few ultra groups I'm part of on like Facebook for every reason. I'm not even an ultra guy, but somehow I'm linked into them, whatever. But and there's definitely no guys that are like 225 that probably throw around the weights you do. So that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be interesting. But it's one of those things. It's like you said, like, about the mental challenge, right? It's like, I wanted to do this because I wanted to prove that someone, at my weight could hit a 50-miler, and not just, walk a 50-miler, but my goal target pace is slightly under like 9.5-minute miles. So I think if I do that,
Dude,
that's
that's awesome.
pretty solid. But yeah, I've been trying to get, it's interesting, like with the marathons. I mean, my PR for marathon is like 2 hours, or I mean 3 hours and 45 minutes. But man, I really want to, qualify for Boston. Do you think it's actually possible for me at this weight to be able to get down that low? I guess I would need a 310. I'll be turning 40.
I mean, I don't put limits on people. I get
Mhm.
people all the time that mess with me. Hey, is this possible? And I say if you're willing to put in the work, why not? Why not you?
Yeah.
And if somebody hasn't done it before, why can't you be the first? And I don't know what the stats are on people that are 225 running under 310, but there's not anybody, why can't it be you? So um, if you put in the work, anything's possible. And a lot of people have proven that. Whether it's running or basketball, football, whatever you name it, people have had odds stacked against them and they've persevered. So go do it, man, and we'll line up together and we'll crush it.
Okay. All right. Well, my plan is, once I've finished this 100-mile race, I'll be probably training. I'll probably be running like 100 miles a week. Right now, I'm running about 80 miles a week. So I'll probably be running about 100 or so, and in order to prepare for the 100. And I think by that time, I should have my aerobic fitness to such a degree that I'll be maybe within the range of being able to get in the Boston qualifier time. So I'll probably run a marathon after the 100-miler, and see where I'm
If
at.
there's
So.
if there's any marathons to run.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's that must be killing you, man. What, not being able to do any races, but
Well, yeah, but it's like I have, a bunch of athletes, and they're all asking me, hey coach, is this race going to happen in the fall? And I don't know as much as the next person, and pretty much Boston training is going to kick off for a lot of my athletes in the next few weeks, because we're only 16, less than 16 weeks out, I think, after this week. Actually, it might be
Well,
16 weeks from today or
yeah.
next week. And um, I think it would be foolish to assume that it's not going to happen and then not train for it, and then be like, okay, it's still going to go on, and then you're like, okay, I got to scramble and prepare for it. So we're going to prepare for it if it's going to happen, and train until they say otherwise, whether it's Boston or whatever other race it is. We'll train for it. It's going to happen, and we'll adjust if they say, hey, we're not going to do it this year, and we'll make other arrangements. So.
Yeah, that's how I've been. I mean, I had my first marathon of this year canceled, and I just trained, and then I just ran it solo, and didn't quite PR on it, but and same thing with this 50 miler. I'm just going to train, and I'm going to run this one solo, and I'll train for the 100. But the 100, I'm not going to run solo. That's the I'll push it back if I have to. Like that one, I feel like I want to be actually in a race to 100 miles solo would be miserable.
It'd be
So
tough to do by yourself for sure.
yeah. So, okay. So, one thing I was always wondering about is, what do you think? Because, obviously you've got, really high or really elite level times. So have you considered, if you were, let's say 30 pounds lighter, could you be like Olympic level, athlete? Like, is it, has that gone, you must have thought about this to some degree, because it does affect your pace, right? Because like your upper body strength is not going to, unless I'm wrong, but I would assume that your upper body strength is going to slow you down versus, so what's your
Oh,
thoughts on all that?
I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword. So I think, I have a lot of muscle overall, and I think if I, cut, 30, 40, 50 pounds, I think while I'm gonna be lighter, I think I'll be more prone to injury, and you lose a
Mhm.
lot of that power. So that's what I tell people. And dude, if I lost like 40 pounds, man, I would look like, I don't know, a skeleton, and
Yeah.
I'm not like a massive guy, but I do carry around a good amount of weight, and to lose 40 pounds, I mean, I just don't think I could do it. I don't think I have it in me to do it, just because I would literally have to like starve myself,
Yeah.
and I can't imagine being 140.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
if I was, sure, the odds might be greater that I could run closer to the 219. But I can't sit here and say for sure that if I'm 140, I'm definitely gonna run 219, because who the hell knows? So
Right. Yeah. Well, it's awesome. I mean, it's, you gotta make the choice too, right? It's like you said, if you lose that weight, then you would, you wouldn't like how you look. So,
yeah.
I think it's and I think a lot of it comes down to like, why are you doing what you're doing, right? It's like, I don't know about you, but like for me, I'm doing it for me, right? It's like,
Mhm.
the times are my times that I'm trying to be just to
Yeah.
improve myself. I don't really care. Like I'm never going to win any kind of, I'm not going to, I'm pretty
Exactly.
realistic, at my size, there's no way that I would have a shot at like, actually really competing, but I'm
Right.
competing against myself. So
Right. Actually, I had a guy, some loony bin. He actually DM'd my boss, James McCurry, and he said, "Tell this bitch Patrick to stop lifting weights. He's wasting his talent, and needs to stop lifting weights, and or he's never going to reach his potential." And I'm like, really? Like, and then he says something back along the lines of, apparently you don't know Patrick, and it seems pretty cowardly thing to say or whatever. And it just goes back to like, it's doing it on my terms, and
right.
you know I want to do it how I want to do it. And if I want to, be the way I am, look the way I am, and run the times I get, they're mine, and it's not on someone else's terms. And same thing for you. Do it the way you want to do it. Do your times, and you earn them how you want to earn them. And then same way for me, and same way other people. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think that's, I was just writing up a thing for my Instagram post, and I was talking about how the idea that like so many of us are trained from an early age to value other people's opinions more than our own, and we have to choose to decide that what we think about something and what we feel about it is more important rather than getting validation from other people and taking their opinion into account. It's our lives, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
So, one thing I really want to talk about also was, I mean, you had a quite a scare here recently, right, with the blood clot. I think that's an interesting story. I think a lot of people don't consider that, especially runners, and how susceptible that we are to that. What was the whole story there? What happened?
So this dates back probably, I mean, I first noticed, if I can use my words here, I first started noticing like issues with my breathing probably back in late October, early November, and I attributed that to, I put a little bit of weight on. I was transitioning from working a full-time job, warehouse, and I had put some weight on, and I was, on my feet less, and I gained 5 or 10 pounds, and I was like, okay, maybe I just need to, get a nutritionist and, tighten up my diet, and I did that, and a few months go by, and still, like, I still didn't feel like myself. I mean, I was barely getting through workouts, and workouts I would do in my sleep, and then I did the Houston Marathon in January, and I ran like 2:44, and I know a lot of people would kill for that time, but it was like devastating time for me. I ran like 1:17 the first half, and then something that never happened to me in any marathon I've done before. Like my body just like shut down. I tried to push and push, and my body just was not responding, and I couldn't explain it for the life of me. I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" And I was, pardon my language,
Oh no,
and
go ahead. Yeah.
I it's like, what's going on? And I attribute just as, one of those races where you blow up and things happen, but it just didn't feel that way, And so I got sick, and, I went to the doctor like maybe a week after Houston, and they said, you have an upper respiratory infection. And I'm like, okay, sure. And then like another week goes by, I go back, I'm having trouble breathing, and having pain in the left side of my chest, real sharp pain. Couldn't get in deep breaths. And then they're like, well, we're gonna give you an inhaler to help you with it. And then symptoms still didn't improve. This is probably like early February. I go back, they say you have exercise induced asthma. And I'm like, I don't think so. But they're like, okay, whatever. So I keep training, and they're like, I was struggling running like 6:15, 6:20 for mile repeats, and it was just, I just didn't feel like myself. And then I think it was like March 10th, and I had pain in my right side of my chest now, and I could feel it, and it was so bad I couldn't even use the inhaler like to get the deep breaths in, because it felt like there was like glass in my lungs.
Oh wow.
And so I took it like 2 days off, whatever, and then I middle of the night I was laying in bed, and I tried going to sleep, and I felt like I was having like a heart attack. Like
Wow.
my chest was just, it was in like the most immense pain I've ever had in my life. And I woke up at like 3 in the morning, and I drove myself to the hospital, and then I was like, sat in the parking lot for an hour, and then I was like, it's not that bad. And so I drove back home, and then I go back to the hospital because I was like, okay, this is pretty serious. And then I go into the emergency room, and I get admitted, and they come back. I did like, x-ray, EKG, and then they hooked me up and did a CT scan, and that's where they come back and they're like, oh, you got several blood clots on both sides of your lungs. So I'm like,
oh wow.
Okay, yeah. And they're like, yeah, it's and they were shocked because, they're like, are you active? And I'm like, a marathon, I'm doing 60, 80 miles every week, and now I'm always working out and stuff. And they just don't see the severity of the blood clots I had for somebody my age and my athletic, background. So it was pretty scary, because they're deadly, and they can kill people, and they kill people every year. They're called like the silent killer. And my biggest message I can tell people is just listen to your body when it's talking to you. And and I'm glad I did. And I don't know how much longer I could have kept living, or training and expected it to be all right. And then one day I don't wake up, so.
Yeah. Wow. That's scary. Did you ever figure out like what were you on a long flight perhaps? Maybe or
So
that
that's
you didn't
what I
get up?
thought. So I was, my brother, he was playing college football, and there was a stretch where we were going like probably like 4 or 5 weeks in a row. We were going, 6 to 8, 9 hour road trips every weekend, sitting in the car and then sitting at the football game for 3 hours. And that's what I attributed to. I told them because they couldn't pinpoint it, and I don't have any history of it in my family, with the blood clots and stuff. So I actually have a few more rounds of tests I got to do, because everything came back normal. I don't have any clotting disorders, so I'm thinking a couple weeks I go back and they just want to rerun those tests just to make sure that there's still no issues. So I did injections. I had to do Lovenox injections into my abdomen for 2 times a day for a month, and then I'm on Xarelto. It's a blood thinner on that for 8 months, and then they'll go from there. I might have to be on something similar to Xarelto, and then if not, they'll put me on like an aspirin or something for the rest of my life. So,
Right.
fun
Wow.
times.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. When I saw you posting that on Instagram, I was like, wow, this is like, I mean, like, as far, I see your runs all the time, and it's like you train, and like, I mean, a lot of your life is this training, and then like to go from, I mean, how did that feel like when you got back and it's like, you can't, I mean, I hate to just lose my fitness when I can't even work out, because I'm sick for a week, but I mean, you must have been devastated by that.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like it was kind of like two separate things. So I was, devastated from the point that I couldn't, train for a while. But then at the same time, I had been like, I didn't even tell my coach this until like probably like a month ago. I was so miserable training, like I hated running, and
Mm,
I'm the most like passionate guy about running. And I didn't hate running because I hate running. I hated because it didn't feel good and something felt off.
yeah.
And I did the trick of taking 3 days off to let the body recalibrate, and nothing was working, and I was having like breakdowns on runs. I was like, how have I ran like a marathon like 5:50 pace, and I'm struggling to run 5 minutes at that now, and I'm not working at my full-time job anymore at the warehouse, and I'm on my feet as much, and I was like, how? And it was just so frustrating, and it was crushing blow to hear that you have something like it, like blood clots. But at the same time, it was almost like a relief because I had answers. Because
Yeah.
dude, I was going like insane. Like, what is wrong with me? Why am I struggling so much? And so I was elated, to find out that I wasn't crazy, because I honestly was like, as soon as I was having issues breathing, I was playing like WebMD, trying to figure out what
Yeah.
was wrong with me. And I always like skip past the blood clots part, because I'm like, there's no way. There's no way I had
Oh,
like
right.
blood clots. So
Yeah.
I just completely disregarded it. And I was like, and I was thinking, maybe I'm just like, it's all in my head, and this is just like some phantom thing. And I'm just like, I should get this on my system. It's going to be all right. But it never happened. And, so I just like now, like I'm a little over 2 months later, and I'm like, I love running again. I love training, and I'm gaining some fitness back, and I'm just excited to build my fitness back up and enjoy the runs, and because I wasn't before, and running's supposed to be something you enjoy, whether it's a workout or just an easy run. And dude, I hated it, and um, it sucks because running's my life, so.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. When I saw, yeah, I'll be honest with you, when I saw that whole thing go down, and that that you couldn't run, and you're, having to walk for, I was like, oh shit, like he's done. I was like, his career is done. Like he's not going to be running again. And then I was shocked to see, your posts recently that there you are. And, I think like the last one I had seen, you were running like a 6:55 mile, for 10 miles. I was like, damn, that's like,
Yeah.
that you're already like, you just had blood clots and you're already faster than I am. I've been trained this whole time. And so,
Well,
but it's
you're
amazing that you, huh? Okay.
Yeah, it's amazing like how much like you time you can miss and your body still remembers,
Yeah.
and dude, like once my coach took the training wheels off and he allowed me to, pick the pace up, it was like I had missed a day. It was like it was just like the best feeling to just like I had a post I think a few weeks ago with the scene where Forrest Gump when he's a kid, he's got the braces on his legs, when he's running,
Oh
and then
yeah.
they break off, and that's how I felt like to just be able to like break free and and just run, and just like he just keeps running and running, running, and that's just how I feel now. Like I just don't want to stop. I just want to keep running, and I'm just in a much better place right now, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that just goes to as a testament to your character that you could come back from this. I think a lot of people, this would be it. Like that, they'd be like, all right, I'm not running anymore. I'm done.
Yeah.
This is like, I had this scare and I've lost so much because, you got to be thinking about shit. All these weeks that I haven't been running, I'm losing this fitness, and then
Oh yeah.
and got to rebuild it all. But man, you just came right back, and just that's amazing. That's inspiring.
So the first thing I asked them was when they told me, I was like, so how is this going to impact me, like long term with running? And they're like, you should be fine. And that's the only thing I cared about. I didn't care about
Yeah.
like anything else. Is the first thing I'm like, okay, so what about running? And
Yeah.
I'm just glad I wasn't affected, long term. People like, oh, well, it was so scary. I'm like, yeah, sure, it was scary. I mean, nobody wants to go do something like that. But I said it could have been worse. There's people that get diagnosed with cancer and stuff like that, and terminal illnesses and that. And I'm like, I think I'm actually fortunate, because I have the ability to go to the hospital and get the treatment. And what about the people that have cancer in stage 4 and they're fucked?
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, I think I'm grateful and I'm fortunate, compared to most. So it's all
Yeah.
about having the right mindset. And you know I think you have to, especially like with social media, I think it's important to you know share both sides, because it's easy, especially when you have a decent following or whatever, to share like the highs. But some people, they decide that, hey, I don't want to share something that wasn't great, and you know or a bad race or whatever. And I think it's important to share and be transparent about both sides of it, because people can relate. Especially, I think more people can relate to when you go through something, and they're like, okay, hey, he's you know good runner, and he's young and he's going to do something traumatic, and look, this is how he handled it.
Yeah.
And I could have thrown a pity party, but I chose not to, because nobody wants to look at something that's like the victim card. And I was like, that's just not me. So it's important to just be genuine through the highs and the lows, as you're going through your journey.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Yeah, it's it shows, like you said, having what I call the bulldog mindset, but the opposite, the victim mindset, which so many people want to adopt the victim mindset when they see someone who they look up to and they see how you handle adversity. It makes a big impact on people, because a lot of times it's easy, to say, oh well, Patrick, he's just got really good genetics, and he's just gifted, and running must just be easy for him, and he must like it all the time. And then to see that it's
No.
like, no,
Yeah.
it's like, it's a fight, it's a struggle for everyone.
Yeah, and I'm
So
sure if you interviewed like the top runners of the world, they would tell you the same thing.
yeah.
And there's so much variation between abilities and speeds and whatnot, but at the root of it all, I think we're all so similar, more than people probably realize. There's days where we love it, days where it feels easy, and there's days where I don't want to go out and run. It's the motivation's just not there. So we're all one and the same in that regard. Of some days it just sucks, but most of the days are good. That's what I love. So.
Yeah. Now, as far as the blood clots, real quick, I think it's probably worth addressing. So my understanding from it is that if you are an endurance athlete, you actually have a higher chance of blood clots, because your resting heart rate is lower. So it doesn't have to pump as hard. So like if you're
Correct.
sitting down, right? And
Yeah,
so,
that's I've actually been doing a lot of reading about those since I've had these, and I came across that same point. And And I've had a lot of people reach out to me, they're like, hey, they're actually a lot more common than people probably realize. And they're like, oh, if I'm an endurance athlete or if I'm really in shape, there's no way it could happen to me. And I think it's kind of naive to say, because you can get them, and yeah, and I actually heard, like, people that, travel on planes, they told me that I should be wearing like compression sleeves, like on my
Right.
calves when I fly now. And I think I've done that like once before, but I think I'm definitely gonna take every precaution, now. I don't want them again.
Yeah, yeah, that's something. In fact, as soon as I saw what happened to you, I went and bought some compression socks, like some calf link compression socks and some compression shorts, just to make sure, because I do some long flights, and I never really considered it. I never thought about, in fact, a lot of times when I'm on a long flight, I'm like, look at all these people getting up and walking around. Can't you just sit for 5 hours? And
Yeah,
that's
and I
going to
know
be me
why.
getting.
I know, right?
Yeah. So, one other thing I really wanted to ask you about too is just in general, like, I mean, again, like I said, I don't know many people that are over, like, 160 or 170 that are running under 3 hour, especially like, on the lower end of 2.5 hour marathons. So there's not a lot of wisdom or training knowledge out there because most marathoners are, 130, 140 pounds,
Yeah.
or, and so what specific things, like, is there anything specific that you've noticed, being a bigger runner, like, for instance, some of the things I've thought about is that, at 225 pounds, in 1 mile, I burn a lot more calories, but I still have the same amount of glycogen stores, or maybe slightly more than someone who's smaller. So I burn through fuel really, really fast. Do you, like, take that into consideration in your training? Like, do you train any differently? Is there anything different that kind of advice for bigger runners?
So I've been working with my coach for going on 4 years, and I think the biggest thing, that we've noticed is, we run decently high mileage, but we're not breaking the bank. So since we've working together, I think I've only had 1 week or 2 weeks where I've gone over 90 miles. And I know for the average person, they're like, hey, that's a shit ton of miles. But there's a lot of people out there that are, around that 230, and then 220 or whatever, that are running, 110, 120 miles a week,
Yeah.
not every week, but, they're running, 3, 4, or 5 weeks at that point, of when they get into the thick of marathon training. And I think as the bigger guys, you don't need to run as much miles. And that's just my thinking. And I think especially too, you're carrying more weight, and yeah, the power is great, but you're putting a lot of stress on your body, and I'm comfortable at the mileage that we do. And that's the biggest thing I tell people is you got to be comfortable and do what works for you. And, one person might like to run, X amount of miles, another person going for the same time, they might prefer more. But you just got to really, especially if you have a coach, is to be on the same page with them, and, how you feel, and, because your body's working a lot harder than the person that's 130 pounds.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. And I don't think people realize that. And, and especially you at 225, I would love to see the data, and let's say, 5 mile run, where you're pushing it pretty hard, what you burn, versus, the other person that's 130 pounds. And it'd probably be very different, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I burn, roughly twice from what I know. So if I look at actually, I just pulled my Garmin here. I think on a 10-mile run, I burn around 1,500 calories. Let's see. Okay. Yesterday I did an 8-mile run, and I burned 895 calories approximately. So
That's some slices of the pizza right there.
yeah. Yeah. I have to eat like basically around 4,000 calories a day
Just to maintain your 225.
Yeah, because if I do, especially like I did let me bring up one of my 30-mile runs. It
Well, let
gets
me
pretty
ask you.
crazy.
So You asked me a question about, if I'd be willing to cut size to get faster. Would that be something you'd ever consider?
No, because like for me, the running is, 30-mile run, 3,673 calories.
Jeez. I
um,
bet you ate a few calories that day.
oh yeah, yeah. I eat like French toast every day, like 8 slices of French toast.
It's the
Uh,
best.
but yeah, especially do with the egg whites. There's this guy I follow on YouTube, Greg Doucette. He's got some
Okay.
awesome recipes. But yeah, egg white French toast, super good. But yeah, no, I wouldn't do it because I like to have the size that I have, right? And
Yeah,
I kind of also see it as something, it's more of a challenge, right? It's like part of the reason
absolutely.
why I started running distance was because of the challenge of it. Like I wanted to do something that challenged me, and the fact that I can do it at 225 when most people wouldn't, attempt to even run a marathon, is, to me, that's like, it pushes me. I'm growing through that process. And that's why even like this year, my goal was to run a 50-miler and then to run a 100-miler this year, is because it's all about the challenge. It's all about pushing myself, being the guy that can do it at this size. It's not about, for me, really competing against anyone else.
Yeah,
So,
two versus you.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, so I wouldn't cut it, I mean, if I suppose it'd be different if I were like, if I running for and trying to get into the Olympics or something like that, and I was trying
Yeah.
to like shave off every second that I could. But yeah, for me, it's more about, I do wish they had weight classes though. Like they used to have like Clydesdale, but
Yeah.
many races don't have that anymore. But that would be interesting, because I do feel like, kind of like boxing, that it does matter, because
Oh, for
clearly,
sure.
it's a lot more effort to run, what might be my 9-minute mile pace might be someone else's like 7-minute mile pace, like the same exact amount of effort and cardiovascular, like health or fitness that's required. So
Yeah, I wish there was like a database or like a website or something that like, ranked, weight classes just to see where you stacked up against
yeah,
similar people your size. Cause I think it'd be pretty interesting because you'd probably be up higher than you probably realize. Cause there's not a lot of guys out there that are driven to, want to run that are 225. Those guys are gym rats, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there's just not a lot of guys that, want to, weigh that much, work out and then still, want to go run, 100 milers, so it's definitely a rare breed, I would say.
yeah, and I think it's, I think that's one of the things, that's why I want to get you on the channel too, is because I want to inspire more people. Hopefully we can inspire more people that are in the gym lifting, like guys that can still go out and do distance running, because I just don't think there's anything that develops mental discipline as much as running distance. Like when you go out and you
Yeah.
do a hard, 15-mile, 20-mile run, or when you race a marathon, like it requires so much. You have to dig so deep. Like in all the years I've been doing weightlifting or any other sport, I've never had to tap into the mental toughness that I've had to do while running distance.
I agree 100%. It's like we talked about before, like the mental aspect of running it's just so tremendous, and I think people don't realize, how much mental strength you have until you run a marathon,
Yeah.
and sometimes I'm blown away that I finished a race, so I'm like, how the hell did I just do that?
Right.
And it's up here and it's up here and here, and then those will carry your legs, because your legs, they'll give out whatever, but it's your mind that you got to convince to keep going. And that's sometimes a lot of people, I see, they kill their training, and their training suggests that they should run, X time or whatever, and it doesn't always pan out, because I think, it's up here where there's a disconnect. And once I think all that aligns, in their head, it'll all come together. That's just why it's just so important to, yeah, sure, train your legs and, do threshold runs and long runs, but really, train your mental aspect of it, and be prepared for the marathon, because, or any, endurance event for that matter, because it's such an important part.
Yeah, no, it is. It is, and I think that you can't really know it until you've done it. I think that's really the key. Is like, I mean, most people don't even know, like they don't even realize how long a marathon is, like, you know, or what it is to run 26.2 miles, you know. That's
a long way.
yeah. So, and I'm learning. I'll see how it feels to run the 50. I feel pretty confident though, because I did 2:30s, and I did a 30 and then a 15 the next day, and did like 15 fast miles, right? At close to marathon pace, or probably about that.
That's
And
more than in 2 days. That's more than what most people do in a week.
yeah, yeah, it was a lot of audiobooks I went through during that time. But yeah, I feel like I can do the 50 for the first. It seems like so far off though. I remember when I first started running, and I was running like 5K like 3 times a week, and then somehow I got up there to where I was running like 6 or 7 miles, and then I said, okay, well maybe I should do a half. But then I thought in my mind, I remember running my first half and thinking at the finish line, like, if I were running a marathon right now, I'd only be halfway done. And I was like, wow, how could anyone ever run a marathon? You know?
Yeah, right. I love the races where there's like, you know, a half and a full on the same time, because I've had races where I'm doing the half and I'm like, thank God I'm not doing the full. Like, you just cross the finish line and see that people in the full, like they're going down another street. I'm like, I'm good, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then there's dude, like it was a I forgot what race it was, but I was like, I was doing the full. I was like, can I just do the half? You know, because some races just don't feel good. But that's the beauty of running. You know, you never know what you're going to get every race. You know.
So what is your that's the other thing I was going to ask you about. What does your fueling look like on a marathon? Like, how are you using like goos, and how often are you taking them? Because that's something, again, that I've been curious about as far as heavier runners, because it's gonna be different again, I would assume. So
yeah. So basically, I take well, for every marathon I've done, I've used like goo Roctane, and then I just started the rise of Morton, the Morton gels.
okay.
I use those in Houston. You've heard of those, right?
What's that?
The Morton gels.
The Morton?
They're yeah.
Okay, let me look that up.
I think it's Swedish, I think.
It's like, what's the DAMORTN, or?
It's Morton, MAURTEEN.
MAUR. Oh, here we go, Morton. Okay, cool. I'll have to. Okay, yeah. So tell me.
Yeah, that's what I used in Houston, and it's much different than a goo or honey stinger. It's just the consistency of it. It tastes it's flavorless, but it has like a weird taste to it. It's supposed to be the best, I'm feeling out there. Like all the pros use it.
Okay.
So I only used it for Houston race. That was my first time I used all 5, and I want to give another shot because I had a bad race, but I'm attributing that to my health, not the actual product itself. But some people take one before. I typically don't, like 15 minutes before, and then every 30 minutes I'll take a gel. So if I'm running 2.5 hours, it'll be five gels total. And I run in like half tights, so I pin the gels to the inside of my waistband, and I usually include, like, if I need 5, I'll usually include like 6, just in case I drop one, or in case something happens where I need an extra one for whatever reason. Is like a last ditch effort, like I'm a mile away and towards the finish, and I just need a last juice to get me there. So I just like to be prepared. My first Boston in 2014, I had a bag of goos, pinned to the inside of my waistband, and I went to use the restroom or whatever before, and they fell out of my shorts, all of my goos.
Oh no!
And I'm standing at the start line. I'm like, try to get my goos ready. It wasn't there, and yeah, so I ran, and I ran the whole race without any fueling, just other than the water and Gatorade on the course.
Wow. Okay. At least you had the Gatorade. I guess that gave you a little bit of.
It was a horrible experience. I collapsed at the finish line, and I woke up in the med tent like an hour later. It was bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely going to hit the wall without that. Wow. I'll have to check into that one. So yeah, I've been doing,
I will say this:
uh,
they're expensive. They're a lot more expensive than the regular like goos. I don't know what the price for goos are. I think for our store they're like $1.79 maybe or something for one. But for one of those, I think it's like $4 or something.
oh,
So they're
okay.
definitely higher end and more expensive. So you will want to use them, um, wisely, in your training,
Yeah.
and make sure you get every little last bit. Sometimes like with the goos, I'll
Yeah.
leave a little bit in there, but with these, you want to make sure you squeeze it all out of there
Exactly.
because it's
Stuff
you
is
got to get
gold.
your bang for your buck. Yeah, liquid
Yeah.
gold. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I try to do feel like if I'm doing a really like a long run, I usually fuel every 20 minutes now is what I'm trying to do. But on those like ultra runs, I've been carrying like uh water with the like the stuff you dissolve in the water. There's like so I'm trying to hit around 300 calories an hour of intake, just because by the time that I hit the 30 miles, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be.
Was it noon? The stuff the tablets that you dissolve or no?
No, there's a goo one. It's like a
Oh,
goo
okay.
powder. I can't remember what it's called, but that
Gotcha.
seems to work pretty well. But but yeah, I'll have to check these out. So cool. Well, any other tips for someone wanting to get started, or kind of making excuses that they're too big to run? They're a weightlifter.
Start small. Like you don't need to jump right in and do 40-mile weeks. And I got like a bunch of new clients that like joined with me, and I'm coaching them, and I'm starting them out with run walking. Some of these
Mhm.
guys because they're intimidated by having to run even 4 miles. So the one guy in the course of a month, we started him out with run 5 minutes, walk 3, run 5, walk 3, and now we're up to running 4 miles. And I think you have to just start small, and it might suck because we're guys, we have egos, and you got to check your ego at the door if you're gonna try to transition from the weightlifting into running. So start small and make realistic goals for yourself, and just don't be discouraged, and you'll get it done.
Yeah, awesome. And guys, make sure you go to Patrick's Instagram, follow him on Instagram. It's I run 26.2 underscore on Instagram. He's got a oh, I think I lost him somehow, but anyway, he's got a really good Instagram account there, and make sure if you want him to train you, he's got a link there for his coaching, and I would say get a coach, right? If you can. I did a lot of my running without a coach for a while, and I made a lot better improvements once I started to get some actual coaching. So anyway, I hope this inspires you guys. I think we lost Patrick here, but that's all right. We're just finishing up anyway. But yeah, really appreciate Patrick coming on here, and amazing story. Again, go check out his Instagram, and you can see his runs. And I mean, the dude has like 6-pack abs. Like he's built. I know he was kind of downplaying it a little bit, but he is friggin' built, and he's running incredibly fast times. So you don't see very many people that that size running the way that he's able to run. So all right, guys, hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you have any questions, and if you have any suggestions for some other exceptional mental toughness athletes that have the Bulldog mindset to get on the channel. I really enjoy talking to guys like Patrick. All right, take care.